Anyways, what I want to do now is show you a little bit about how I use the articulations to achieve the sound of the instrument parts. So I'll take the I'll take the oboe as an example first because it's one of the first instruments I recorded, and it's fairly simple. I used a lot of different flutes to get kind of the sound that I wanted, but oboe I just stuck with the legato and the staccato from BBC Symphony Orchestra. So you can see here, this is just the legato track, and I do. So obviously, this little run right here is all legato, but these little this long note is what I want the legato for, and then this note here, I'm playing it with the legato sample, but I also add in the staccato sample just for that short note. And it just gives it a little bit extra, just a little bit extra attack, because the legato sample has a slower attack, and the staccato sample, since it has to be short, has a quick attack. And so that's one thing that I do quite a bit with articulations. Some people like to use key switches and have one track per instrument, and they're just putting in all sorts of key switch notes, MIDI events that change the articulation. But I like to have them separated into different tracks. I like a legato track and a staccato track. I find it way easier to work with. And sometimes I want to mix the articulations. Like in this case, I have, on those short notes, I have both the legato and the staccato tracks playing that short note. And if I was just using key switches, I wouldn't be able to do that. Another really good example of this are the strings. So if I expand this out, we can read the track names here. Just a little bit about organization. I really like to color code my all of my tracks by section, and so I've got all of these kind of light blue ones as the string sections. This lighter blue is the BBC Symphony Orchestra string instruments. And here and there, I've got an East-West Opus string to fill in something that I need that BBC didn't have. I've got this kind of orangish color for all of the brass. I've got this purplish for the woodwinds. I used green for my saxophone section that's barely there. I've got red for my percussion. And then these are all my bus tracks, all my submix buses or effect buses. And they're typically all yellow. Anyways, back to the violins. So I've got a violin 1 legato. I've got a violin 1 legato light. Then I've got the violin 1 spiccato articulation here for the short, sharp attack notes that I need. And I've got the violin 1 trill. I think this one's a minor second trill. And then violin 1 sul tasto for this really kind of airy, light entry note that it starts with. Let's just play it real quick. There's a sul tasto. Okay. So that's mostly the legato, but you saw at the one part where it goes do and then does the trill. So that's switching between the legato and the trill articulations. Another good example of that is the violin 2. See. So that's a good way to use the different articulations to achieve a certain effect or play the part that is in the actual song. A real player playing a violin is going to be doing different things with their instrument that is not just one technique. They're going to be mixing their techniques as they play. And you have to be able to do that with your articulations. That's the way that you do that with an orchestral mock-up like this. To finish up this intro section, I'm going to go through each instrument section and play you what it sounds like. I'm going to solo the strings. There's the big theme. We haven't even touched the brass yet. Let me highlight and solo the brass. Let's see what that looks like. So there's not very much brass going on in the intro. Comes in midway through the intro. So there you go. There's the brass. All right, let's listen to the woodwinds next. Woodwind sounds so cute at the big part. And we're going to ignore the saxophones. Not going to play them for you. They're not really doing anything extra special. What they're doing is a mix of what the woodwinds and the brass are doing. You're not supposed to be here, saxophones. Let's take a look at the small amount of percussion that's in the intro. The percussion that is there is interesting. There were things that I wouldn't have expected to be there, and I'm glad I had the score for this part, because I probably wouldn't have been able to figure out what I was hearing in the percussion for the intro, because some of it's so quiet and some of it is just kind of weird. The harp is here, but it doesn't sound like a harp because it's playing super low harp notes. And then it's got a vibraphone that's just kind of barely there. This is my crash cymbals track, but it's not crash cymbals in the intro. It's that weird effect where you have the cymbals and you kind of rub them against each other in a certain way. And it's got a harp, a tam-tam, gong thing, vibraphone, and that's really about it, I think. Here's the cymbals. And so that was the harp. That harp, vibraphone, harp. This is where the swell is coming up. Just kind of weird, eerie stuff on the vibraphone. And that note. What the heck is that note? Okay. And then there was some timpani there as well. And then, of course, a big cymbal swell and another swell on the tam-tam as well. Let's highlight everything. Here we go. So, yeah, it comes together pretty nice. So, starting out, the big things were just getting the tempo locked in, making your tempo map at the top with a master tempo track, and then finding the right instrument to start on, either a melody instrument or a rhythmic instrument, a tonal rhythmic instrument, and then from that starting point, just kind of adding in the pieces. I find it best when I'm adding those in to go similar instruments to more similar to less similar instruments. So like when I started with the flute, I obviously went with the oboe next because it plays a harmony line that harmonizes directly with the flute line. And then from there, I added the other woodwinds for that section, the bassoon and the bass clarinet, and then the piccolo. And then just kept going through the strings, and then onto the brass, and then the percussion. Typically, I do percussion last for the sections of the piece that I'm working on, unless it's got a very driving drum beat. So if everything is kind of locking onto the percussion for the rhythm and it's got a really solid beat, then I sometimes do the percussion first. Percussion's kind of either first or last for me.